All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to committee of the whole meeting for May the 26th. It's 6 p.m. I'd like to welcome everybody here this evening. For housekeeping, anybody that's new in the building, we have offices over to the left, and feel free to partake in that. But we will start the meeting off with a motion to adopt the agenda, please. So moved by Councillor Glenn, seconded by Councillor Bannister. Questions to the motion? Seeing no questions to the motion, all in favor? Aye. Contrary minded, motion carried. I'll remind everyone we have some conflict of interest forms in the middle of the table. Should there be any conflicts on anything on the agenda this evening, please fill that in and pass it into the clerk stating the reason. With that, we've got a packed agenda tonight with some really great guest speakers. So I would like to move on to item 4, new business, and 4.1, nursing home without walls, the Kenneth E. Spencer Memorial Home. And we have Jolene Dwyer that is here. Welcome. I guess I've seen you more in the last month than I think my own council. This is great. So if you'd like to step up to the podium, Jolene, and we're very informal here, so just be yourself and have some fun tonight. Tell us all about your program, which is truly amazing.
And the clicker should be
right there.
Did I put it there?
Yes,
You're good.
perfect. So thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much, guys. I'm sure not interrupting anyone. So my name is Jolene Dyer, and I am the director of Nursing Home Without Walls at Kenneth E. Spencer. Best show of hands. Anyone heard of that program before? So what? Okay, so I should just leave? You have it. I will stay just for you, Joe.
Thank you.
So I'll just be in eye contact with Joe. I'm joking, guys. So thank you so much for allowing me to be here. I'm going to do the presentation on here. We'll just be able to just talk it through.
Go backwards to what you think.
It's confusing.
Okay, I see. So for those who've not heard of it or maybe would not have known before, the program was started by Dr. Suzanne Dupuis-Blanchard. And she had an idea or research to see how is it that we can help seniors to age in place and at home. And with the amount of seniors that we do have in New Brunswick, we will not have enough nursing homes to be able to house them if all of them decide to go to a nursing home. And so in conjunction with several other partners, to include social development, she approached nursing homes to ask if they would apply for grants. And with that grant, you are able to employ persons like myself to try and help seniors to age at home. So we would be able to go in and assist them in helping them fill in forms, whatever services that they may need, help to combat social isolation by creating programs that will get them out of their homes or just for us to get them going their homes, do telephone calls, do physical visits, and just do a social check so they can be comfortable at home. We're also certified to do checks in their homes on falling hazards and several other areas where we can identify with, if it is that they fall, they usually end up at the hospital, which usually means weeks, couple of months of recovering. And if that's not done properly, then they usually end up in nursing home with their partners or their caregivers may not take care of them. And so we're trying to prevent all of that. And that's exactly what we're doing here at Nursing Home Without Walls. So on the screen, you'll find 27 locations. And those 27 locations, we are number 27. Woo! And we're very excited to be number 27 out of the gang. So we're very new. And for those of you who are not familiar with us, we're at 35 Atlantic Baptist, and that is just on Salisbury Road. And so we're very close by. We are covering several areas, but I'll walk you through where we're covering soon. So just some fun facts about what we've been doing so far in terms of Nursing Home Without Walls on a whole, since it was developed in 2019. We've had 3,200 registered participants, with 71,000 services that were offered over the period of time that we've been open about. With over 2,000 group events were held up to May 2025 with 31,000 attendees. So we're very, very happy to be able to create an impact or to be able to meet the need of our seniors where they are. And the great part about our program is we don't sit in our office and just develop programs. For our seniors, we go out and do surveys and ask, what is it that you would like to do? What are the needs that you have? so that we'll be able to meet those needs. Otherwise, we'll just be creating them for ourselves and nobody will come because I'm not there yet, right? And so all the programs that we have, we're able to, we can say that we've asked the seniors, they've given their feedback and we've created activities and items that will be able to meet their needs. Just some fun facts, again, from 1973 to 2023, we have grown from 8.7% to 23% of seniors in New Brunswick only. So almost 3 times as much seniors we have in our province, and it continues to grow. It continues to grow, and so we have to make provisions for that. So nursing home without wall, who qualifies? I will not ask you to raise your hand if you're over 60, but if you are, Joe, it's okay.
I'm waiting to find out what services I'm gonna get.
If you are, we are able to assist and it gives us the opportunity to expand our services for Moncton, Salisbury, and Riverview because of where we are. For the next 26 locations, wherever they are, we will have different areas that they will touch. And so, for example, for our Sussex team, they would touch like Pellicodiac, and we would kind of share different areas. Elgin would share Havelock. And so we make sure that everybody is touched. Even if there's not a nursing home without walls right in the community, we would drive and spread our wings so we can make sure that all our seniors are taken care of. Sarah. And so we only care for persons who are living in the community so they can stay at home. If they're already registered in a long-term care facility or nursing home, because they're already there, their needs are being met already. So our duty is to help them, the persons who are actually in their homes, to stay at home. And so that's what we seek to do. So what do our program facilitate? So if any programs, federal, provincial, municipal, any community program that is out there, we'll be able to assist them. I got a call this morning, a gentleman, he lives outside of Shediac and he's 75 and he said, I can't cook anymore, I can't do my garden anymore, and I can't clean my house anymore. How can you assist me? And those are the calls that we love to get. Because at that point, we would physically go in and meet with him, and we would help him fill out a long-term care application form that would get social development, connecting him with a facility that would bring somebody into his home for a few hours a day, a few days a week, that would clean and cook and just help him to be able to age at home. I got a call last week from a gentleman who he had a heart attack and died for 32 seconds until his defibrillator jolted him back to life. And when I saw him, half his face was already black and white from the fall because he woke up on the floor. Okay. This is a 69-year-old gentleman. He drives for himself. He does everything for himself. But no, because of that, his license is suspended for 6 months, so he'll need to get around. He won't be able to bend to clean anymore. He won't be able to prepare or stand long anymore. And I was so happy to be able to go into his home and to assist in filling out long-term application form for him, getting somebody to help him to drive. So if he wants to get around, we do have volunteers. And if you feel like you're way younger than you are, or you're just have lots of time on your hands, we are accepting volunteers who would be able to assist. And to get him around, get him to the grocery store, whatever it is that he needs so that he'll be able to age at home. Because he really just needs to recover for a few months and then he's back on his feet. If you admit that person to a nursing home, then they're really not a great need for that. And so those are some of the things that we do. So as mentioned before, friendly calls and check-ins, transportation to and from outings, and that's one of the blessings that we have. Spencer has a bus, and we're going to use that bus to help seniors. And part of what we're getting a lot is, I want to get to my appointments. Urban Rights have a bus or transportation that will assist with medical appointments and legal appointments, but for grocery and other runs, they won't be able to do that. And so we are very happy to be able to get that bus to transport persons to and from grocery pickups. So we would go in with them, help them to pick up their groceries, pick them up from home, go and get groceries with them, and bring them right back home and help them to pack it out if they need to and all that. And that's something that we're really excited about. And I'm very excited to say that I'll be sitting my class 4 license so that I can go and help to drive too. Because they're not having all that fun without me. All right. So that's something that we're going to be doing, and we're going to be doing that in Salisbury, Mountain, and Riverview, and we're super excited about that because that's one of the needs that we're hearing. I had a conversation with a daughter who was telling me that her mom has not had a bath in 20 years, just showers. Not had a bath in over 20 years. And we hear stories like that, and we do have baths at the nursing home. And so we've created the opportunity for persons to come into our nursing home and have baths free of cost. And every single thing that I'm making reference to right now is free of cost. Everything. The transportation, the baths, the services for us to go in, it's free of cost. And we're going to be, they're able to call us and we make an appointment for them to come in and enjoy a beautiful jet hydro bath for an hour or two if they feel the need. And I think that would make such a big difference in a lot of people because they're not unfortunately able to step over anymore to go into a bath, and so they've always just had a walk-in shower. But can you imagine after 20 years having a bath, just being able to do that? Oh, I'm excited about that. I'm really excited about that. We'll have a PSW on site that will be able to assist until that long-term care approvals are given, because there's a little bit of a time span in between. And we have created activities where the communities will be able to come in, persons from communities will be able to come in, enjoy some bingo. We have on Thursday morning bingo at our Spencer location. We have our lunch and learn, of which we had a great turnout last week, Tuesday, I think. Yeah, Tuesday, and it was fantastic. Just creating opportunities for them to come, leave their homes, and just enjoy a time with our fellow seniors and just have lots of fun. So how is it that you can help? How is it that we'd love for you to be a part of all of this? Program awareness. So if you know someone that's in your community that really take advantage, and I'm not pointing at Joe because, if you know someone in your community that would be able to take advantage of this, we'll be more than happy to share that information with them. If you have a space or a venue in your community or close by that you think would be able to use to do our lunch and learns or weekly meetings or even just a one coffee, we'd love to be able to use that space. Volunteer support. We have a gentleman who will be having his eye surgery in a few months, and he's like, the only thing I need is just somebody to drop the drop in my eye. That's all I need. So if you have 5 minutes, well, can't promise it's going to be 5 minutes because you're going to hear about his grandkids and his kids after that. But if you have 15 minutes that you'll be able to do a drop in the eye, if you can volunteer once a month, once a year, once a week, we're more than happy to have you on. In-kind donation would be, for example, we're going to be having next month on the 3rd, we're going to be having a butterfly way garden that's going to be happening. And for our other students who are no longer can tend to their own garden, we're going to give, each one is going to leave with a pot, a pollinated plant that they will be able to tend to in their apartments or in their home. So if you have like craft stuff or anything like that that you think you can part with, pots or soil or whatever it is, that we'll be more than happy to take those from you. Referrals to persons who, as I said, for those who will be able to join us, and any events or activities, if you'd love to join or if you'd like to send persons, we'll be more than happy to have them. So for this time only during my presentation, I'm going to ask for you to take out your cell phone if that's okay, and you can scan the code that's at the bottom, and that will be our Facebook page. And if you're so kind as to follow us, and if it is that you can share as well, to anyone that is so inclined as to may need our services, we'll be very, very happy to share that. And that will be my presentation. How did I do with time, Diane?
You did that.
I good? I did good?
Yeah, you.
Yeah, so thank you so much. Do you have any questions? I'm very open to questions. I'd love to answer any question. Joe?
So, you talked about the plants, but do you take anything else like seniors who might need like furniture or anything like that?
Absolutely. So what it is that we would do is when we get calls of our needs, we would be able to try and meet those needs. And that's why I asked you to join me on my Facebook page, because that's where we would ask, say, we would, a senior is trying to get a wheelchair or a walker or coach or anything of that sort.
Right.
Is there anyone in the community who would be able to assist in providing such a thing? And that's the way we would use it. Otherwise, we would not be able to store all the things that we'll be able to get in our very
Okay.
small office. But do you have furniture that you want to get, Joe?
Well, some, pretty soon.
He sure does.
Oh, he does. Okay, perfect. So that's great. This Thursday, I have 2 seniors who are moving. And then I'm getting volunteers from Crandall University, some students who would just be able to get.
Joe, Joe can help too.
Joe.
My age, I shouldn't be lifting heavy things.
I won't agree, because then. Okay, so if you, so those are some of the things that absolutely, Joe, we do accept any kind that you have, and then we'll be able to say that we have this, or if any of our students are interested in taking this furniture, whatever it is that they have to offer. And then we'll just make that connection and do that pick up and drop off for them. Any other
Goodbye.
questions? Yes, hello, Jason.
What's the average time between when somebody calls and says that they need services to the time that they actually get services?
Same day, no, same week, sorry.
Okay.
Same week. So once it is that they give us a call, we would just try and schedule them according to, listen, you have some of these seniors that are busier than me and you, right? You say, well, I gotta have the grandkids that day. No, and I said, everybody's working for you, Miss Smith. You know, but yes, we try to meet them that same week. And if they're not available that week, we try to have at least 3.
So I've had the opportunity, I think we met about a month and a half ago at the Spencer. I heard about the wonderful opportunities. That's why I didn't want to get them to come in and talk. I've since been to one of your lunch and learns,
Yes,
which I learned a lot. But then the other thing was, and I've talked to Austin a little bit about this, about even when we run some community seniors luncheons and different things, I think there's an opportunity to do something similar to what you did in at Spencer as well. So definitely wonderful services that we can spread out to our community and our seniors. So
thank you so much. And a lot of the times when our seniors hear nursing home, they don't hear the without walls. They just hear nursing home and they run back the hill. So if it is that you are able to, if you are able to share that, you are the trusted voice. And if it is that they hear from you that, I promise, you're not trying to lock you into a nursing home and throw away the keys, then it might take advantage of it. You do have some seniors who, they're not too keen on people in their space unless they have somebody that they trust. Say, it's okay, if you need help with getting someone just to talk to once a week, we are able to help you with that, or to visit once a week. I have a meeting on Wednesday with a volunteer and a senior that's going to meet for the first time. And the volunteer is a winner. She's lonely, and the senior is lonely. And when we put that together, we find 2 people who can play bingo and cards and do Scrabbles and whatever it is that they'll enjoy. And at 2 o'clock, I'm gonna have the biggest smile on my face when I see them meet for the first time, because that is what this is all about. Yeah.
and when you offer a free lunch to seniors, they tend to show up. This is just kind of a hint for our recreation department to here, but the recreation department for the city of Moncton was on hand at the event, and they talked about all the wonderful activities that were available for seniors, everything from the chairs Zumba to the different activities that we all do in Salisbury. So it was a great win-win. And what I did notice was the seniors were very engaged and asking questions, and they were lined up after the luncheon was over, going to the information areas to get the information. So kudos to what you guys are doing.
Thank you so much. And we'll be more than happy to continue to do those lunch and learn. If you have, and we invite professionals like yourself to come in and do a presentation. So we're gonna have a few more presentations going. So we have one every month. We're gonna be having one, in June, about, Metro Bones, just kind of getting them moving and showing them how they can move even in their homes so that they're not just sitting, they're moving around and keeping active. In July, we're gonna be having, talk on wills, wills, power of attorney, and so on, and we're gonna be doing that at Fairhaven, and, so we'll be providing options and so on for them. So as a professional in here, if you feel like there's something that would be good for our seniors to know, would love to engage with you, so we can have that as our lunch and learn topic. And I promise they'll come out, not only for the food, but they'll come out for the information as well, because there's a lot that's happening that they're not aware of. And so we'd love to, was your hand up, Sarah?
Yeah, listen,
Okay.
do you put somewhere where you have it's listed, like, if you're making need of volunteers, certain times, or
So we do have a volunteer form, and then once we have those persons list their time and availability, then when we get a call for a need, we'll contact you to see if it is that you're able to assist in that area. So for example, for Crandall, where we have the big, strong young men who would be able to do that, would be able to call on them. For the volunteer that's going to meet on Wednesday, it's no heavy lifting, really just conversation. If it is that you're, for example, we have a PSW or a nurse that also volunteer, and they come in to assist with baths for the persons who want to take advantage of the program. So if it is that, whatever it is that you do, you can let us know, because I promise you there's somebody who will be able to be able to appreciate just your presence.
we have a lot of, like, community groups that are also looking for opportunity to volunteer places.
Okay, well, one of the things that's actually, I'd love to get your details so we can connect.
All of them ones.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm going to be leaving with you just something tangible, so that you'll be able to maybe hand it out or share with somebody that you know. To transfer with you for me, and it's really what we do. That's it. I'll just give you a few to pass that way.
Awesome. Stephanie just made a good point. We should write the block parties.
I actually sent them the
Yes.
presentation that Masco and then we'll making later. So yeah, we'll connect at some point to see what some options are. And that was the potential.
So thank you again. Do we have any other questions? Don't be shy.
Let me get one comment. When a senior is in contact with social development.
Yes.
They are home, but does social development tell them about this program at all?
So that 211 number that they call social development, yes, they would guide them to the closest nursing home without walls to them, if it is that they need an assistant.
Okay.
So you do have some seniors, computer, they don't work well with the computer,
Right.
and so that's where we come in. We bring our computers in and we would just go ahead and fill out forms for them. They would sign authorization that we're okay to communicate on their behalf, and once email come back on anything that they need, if they miss a form or a slip or whatever, we get that and resubmit and the like, and until it's all done. And then we'll just continue to connect with them throughout the time. But yeah,
Great,
yeah.
thank you.
I often tell them if they don't use my services, I'm from Jamaica and it's warm all year round. So I'll just be forced to go home and then sit on the beach while I get paid. And that's no fun to anybody except me. So I tell them, please use my services, and I'm really happy to be for my team and I to be able to do that, because we are seeing the joy. And I think I'm gaining more than they're gaining, because when I sit with an 85-year-old and she says to me, as a professional, I was so busy, I was unable to enjoy the things that I really love to do. And now that I'm 85 and I have the time, I can't see to do it. So Jolene, go and enjoy the things that you enjoy, you like. I went home that day because I make jewelry. And maybe if you saw me before, it would be at the date market, because that's where I have a booth. But if it is that I enjoyed anything and I wasn't doing it, I started that day. Because that wisdom you cannot buy. That wisdom is something that that can be garnered from somebody who would have lived it and experienced it and getting a chance to share that you can't pay money for. And thank you so much for your time, and I
Thank
hope
you.
enjoy. Thank you.
All right, no pressure, David Campbell, the 4.2, Salisbury Vision 2035. You'd like to come up to the podium?
All
Oh,
introductory remarks.
okay. Francesco,
Hello. Well, read your faces. I know you've already,
you better introduce yourself.
I know you've already received the electronic version, but I think this is nicer. We believe in nice things.
Thank you, sir.
It's cool. Thank you.
Just getting all of it.
So, good afternoon. Thank you for having us here. We would be me and David Campbell. So just a quick note to set the scene for David Campbell and his presentation. When I first went around and for those that don't know me, I'm Francesco Galazzo, the General Manager for Economic Development at the Southeast Regional Service Commission, which is a mouthful, but still, it's the. So when we went around, we spoke with mayors, with CAOs, with councilors. I remember that one of the first things I said is, tell us how we can help. Because we have a toolbox that we can put at your disposal. We can enable you. We can facilitate some of the things you want to do. But what is it that you want to do? And almost invariably, except for some exceptions, and I would actually count amongst the exceptions your mayor, Robert Campbell, that has a background in economic development, has done this over and over again. But still, some of the things that came out was, well, we don't know as a council, as a general vision of where we want to be. And so if you don't know where you want to be, how can I possibly help you and enable you to get where you want to go? So after this conversation and pretty much being the same throughout the different municipalities, we launched the idea of providing you and all of the other municipalities of the Southeast Regional Service Commission, which are 12 plus in rural district, with a four-sided exercise, which would be individual to every municipality and then tied together into a regional vision for 2035, 10 years out. Some people say it's too ambitious, but at the end of the day, let's put yourselves in the shoes of a 15-year-old. You're not thinking what you want to do with 18. You're thinking what you want to do when you grow up. You actually project yourself to a near future, but enough for you to actually be able to entertain ideas and ambitions. And so finally, it's the turn of Salisbury. We are, I think, past the halfway mark, which is 7 out of 12 communities. So we will be done by the end of the year, 2025, 2035. And I think it actually dovetails pretty well. And so without further ado, I will give the floor to David Campbell, which will present the scenarios, the study, the scenarios, and now the prayer that he will tell you and that I am telling you now is once you get the study, if you're as excited as we are for having carried out, you really have to think deeply on what you want to do with it. How do you want it to drive some of your ambitions? So thank you, and we are here for questions afterwards.
Hey, evening, folks. It's good to be here.
Indeed.
Yeah, so I won't give you the introduction because Francesco already has. I've known your mayor for quite a few years, and we already had a chat about this conversation with Austin. Now it's been a few months since we had the conversation. So I'm excited to do this work for the 12 different municipalities because again, they're all slightly different. They have slightly different economies, slightly different needs. And ultimately, as you will see in this report, one of the main focuses is to just think about what kind of population growth you need as a municipality to support workforce development. So that's one thing, you know, we tend to look at those things on a regional basis or maybe the large cities, but we're actually trying to zoom in on each municipality and say, if you want to make sure you have workers to meet workforce demand, what kind of population growth do you need to think about and target in the future? So I'm going to go through this short deck and then answer any questions you might have. So for each of the reports, they're all in a similar template. Of course, every community is different, but we're trying to follow a similar template. We look a little bit at the history of the economy and population in the municipality. We profile the business sector and changes in the sector over time. So what kind of industries are here? What kind of workforce? We've got a demographic and workforce review. We've got a little bit of a summary of potential economic growth opportunities. And of course, a lot of that comes from your own economic development strategy, of course. And then we've got 3 different population growth scenarios for you to consider. What happens if your population doesn't grow very fast? What happens if it grows sort of moderately? And what happens if it grows quite fast? What are the implications for your workforce here in the town? And then just a few considerations around related to growth, such as infrastructure for housing and so on. Oh. So why should we do this? Well, again, I won't reiterate what Francesco said, but basically you've got a lot on your plate right now. You're dealing with a lot of issues, but you need to keep one eye on longer term. Think about what do we want? What's our grand vision for the community? What do we want this community to look like, feel like in the coming years? And that's one of your roles as council. So this document is meant to be one small way to help with that in terms of looking at industries and population. So what does your industrial profile look like? Well, again, I just want to reiterate that we've tried as much as possible to design the data based on the new municipal boundaries. And you'll see how we did that in the report. It's not perfect, of course, because we don't have good data based on the new municipal boundaries. We won't until the 2026 census. So we know, obviously we have good data on the town itself, the former town, town's boundaries, and then some of the peripheral areas. So we tried to do we think the data here is pretty good. It's a pretty good approximation of your population, workforce, and industrial base, but we'll have a better understanding of that after 2026. There's roughly 150 to 200 employer businesses in the municipality. So those are companies and organizations that employ at least one worker. There's another 300 plus non-employers. So that's self-employed people that don't payroll. So there's a fair amount of those in the municipality as well. There's about 2,400 people that are actually employed in the municipality. I'll show you a little bit more in a minute about the large workforce that lives here, but actually works in Moncton and other municipalities. Your top industries, if you look at it on a revenue basis, there's a company called Lightcast that does these estimates. And they're suggesting that agriculture, chemical manufacturing is your top sector by revenue, not by employment. Farming and related manufacturing is a big industry here in the community. Financial services and the restaurant sector also show up high from a revenue perspective. We've also got data in there on employment by industry in the municipality as well. The fastest growing industries, interestingly enough, healthcare is a fast growing industry in terms of employment, increased employment. Transportation, the construction sector, retail, trade, professional services, and accommodation, mostly food services in that sector. So we're seeing growth in all of these industries in the past 10 years. So in terms of the population, we estimate the population, and I think that must be fairly close to what you guys are looking at there, but we estimate it's around 8,300 across the municipality. And the population has been growing quite strongly between 2014 and 2024. Again, based on Stats Canada data, Statistics Canada data, we estimate the population has increased by about 12%, which is pretty good for a smaller rural community, geographically small population-wise. And much of that growth actually occurring after the pandemic. And really, housing is the constraint there. If you had more housing, you would have grown even faster, of course. taking advantage of this sort of swell of population that came into the wider region since the pandemic. Most of the population growth here, according to the data, is coming from migration from elsewhere within the region of country. So people moving here either from other parts of Greater Moncton or other parts of New Brunswick and to a lesser extent the rest of the country. There's little primary immigration in the community. There could be secondary, so we don't have good data on that until the census. But if an immigrant were to move to Moncton initially and then move out here, that wouldn't be in this data. They'd be showing up as intra-provincial migrants. And then your median household income here is 10% higher than the province overall. So fairly good income profile for us, again, for a smaller rural community, a small community, but being on the periphery of the urban center helps with that as well. So that's the population growth. So again, as I indicated earlier, southeastern New Brunswick, mainly Dieppe and Moncton, but also Shediac and Salisbury grew very fast as well. So the region down here grew by 27%, just an unprecedented growth rate. But the town of Salisbury did grow, again, from a historical perspective, very strong as well. So the other thing we look in there is the share of the population of low income, and we had a great presentation on seniors earlier. We want to make sure we're taking care of our seniors. And in fact, if you look at the LICO method of calculating poverty or poverty line, which is the low income cutoffs, there's relatively low poverty in the community, which is really good news. Now, this is from the census. It may have changed a bit since the census because of the upward pressure on cost and inflation, housing. But as of the census, less than 1% of your seniors were classified as below the poverty line. And again, if you compare to New Brunswick overall and Greater Moncton, much lower levels of poverty here in the town. So on the workforce side, I have a couple of slides on this, but basically there's 4,200 people that live in the town. Again, the new boundaries. And participate in the workforce. So that's at some point during the year they worked for income, and that's based on the 2021 census. So as I said earlier, there's only about 2,400 that work in the municipality. And some of the people that actually work in the municipality come in from other municipalities, so it's a little bit complicated. But at the end of the day, what we're showing here basically is a lot of people choose to live here, even though their job is in or elsewhere in the region. So that's good news. They're purposely choosing to live in our community here, even though their job is elsewhere. And the other thing that's important to note is that 25% of your workforce is aged 55 or older, and that's as of the 2021 census. So that's only slightly gotten worse since. Worse is not it's not bad to age. I'm 57, and I guess I understand at least one of your counselors is over 60.
But it's way over. Way over.
Not a bad thing.
Not letting you forget it either.
It's gonna be my next one.
So if you look at the people that actually commute to work, so a lot of people work from home, like a farmer, for example, is classified as working from home. But of the people that get up in the morning, put their clothes on, go out the door, get in their car and go to work, that's shown in this chart. And 50% of those folks work in the city of Moncton. Only 32% live or work here in the I guess the town of Salisbury now, and 6% in Riverview, 9% in Dieppe. So again, just pointing out that only about a third of the people that live in the municipality.
David, can I, on that slide, I found it very interesting, as I stated previously, about the 2,400 residents that work in the community in previous conversations with the province. I would reiterate to them that Moncton is somewhat a bedroom community of ours as well, and that we have a huge proportion of population from Moncton that actually comes every day work in our community.
That's right.
So that means 68% of our workforce comes from outside our community.
Well, no, this is going the other way.
The other way?
Yeah, this is
So-
the people who live here, but I have the data going the other way.
How many people come into our community that
Yes,
don't live here? Because that's the opportunity as well, where you mentioned from a population suppression.
Yep.
And by that, there were more homes here, we could grow more.
I'll get that number, your worship. I have, if it's not in here, I'll get
It's
it
okay.
for you, but it
I
is.
just find it an interesting one.
Hundreds and hundreds of people come in from Moncton to work here every day. That's correct.
Okay.
So it does certainly go both ways. And I'll show you in a minute that actually is a good thing from a workforce.
No, I think it's a great thing, yeah.
And that's your workforce distribution by age group. And again, that's the people that live in the community here. So the highest percentage are over the age of 55. And those folks will retire at some point. So we do need to think about how we backfill for the folks that are retiring. So as I mentioned, we did these 3 population growth scenarios, and these are not done in a vacuum. These are done based on workforce. So again, you know, understanding there's this big mobility of workers in and out, we had to work with a number. So we worked with the number of people that live in the municipality that are in the workforce. So what we're looking at is how many of those are going to retire and will need to be replaced in the workforce. And then if we want to grow the workforce, how much population growth do we need to see? And there's all of the assumptions around that are in the report. But basically, if you look at scenario 1, if the community grows by 1.7% per year, its population, not its workforce, if it grows the overall population by 1.7% per year, that will bring enough people into the workforce to replace those that are expected to retire, but no more. So you will not grow your workforce, even though the population is growing. And again, it's because of the demographics. So you've got 1,145 expected to leave by 2035. You've got to replace those in the workforce. And therefore you'll have no surplus of or new workers or net new growth in your workforce. And what we say in the report is that limits the growth potential in new industries such as tourism or agriculture and services. So I know you've got big plans to grow your industry and services here in the community. And what this is suggesting is you need a fairly strong population growth rate to support the workforce. Now, again, as your mayor said, if you can bring a lot of those people in to commute in every day from work, then it makes that easier. You don't necessarily have to live in the community, but you've also got competition for that workforce. Because just as many people, percentage-wise, are retiring from the city of Moncton and from the town of Riverview, and from the city of Gainesville. So if you look at moderate workforce growth, so if you grow your population by 2.6% per year, and I think recently you've been growing at around 2.2, and again, that's just constrained by lack of housing. But if you were to grow by 2.6% per year, you'd have a pretty strong growth rate. You'd add 540 net new to the workforce by 2035. And that would give you additional workers, additional population to support industry growth in tourism or personal services or other industries. And then the third scenario is sort of a faster growth. So if you grew by 3.4%, which is quite fast, you need to have significant growth in your housing stock, but your workforce would grow by 2% and you'd add over 1,000 people net growth to the workforce by 2035. So in that case, you'd have lots of new workers to meet demand, whatever sectors you're trying to grow here in the community. So that's just 3 sort of population scenarios. So when you're planning in terms of housing forecasts, when you're planning in terms of what industries you're looking to grow and so on, we hope this document can be used to support you in that endeavor. Just a few more slides before I take questions. So other considerations, as the mayor mentioned, you have this interconnection. So even if you didn't grow your population at all, you can still grow industries. You're going to be relying on other municipalities to help you support your workforce, or you're going to convince more of the people that live here to work here, as opposed to commuting into the city or into other municipalities on a daily basis. We could also encourage older workers, I won't pick on Joe again, but we could encourage older workers to participate in the workforce longer. I intend to work beyond 65, and some do. And so if they want to work longer, they can play roles in the tourism sector or other industries in your community. There's the remote workforce, which we're starting to see grow here in the region, across the entire region, more people working from home or working for jobs elsewhere, but they actually live in the community. And the other thing is, and it's great to see the growth in the healthcare, the childcare access here in the community, because that's going to be key. As you attract young families, you have to have childcare, and you have to have the workers for the childcare industry. And I know that we've seen some growth in the childcare sector in recent years in there. So which scenario is more likely? Well, I think very much it's kind of up to you. What kind of population growth do you want to see in the community? You're part of a larger area that's growing quite strongly. It's kind of an economic engine. So basically, you know, as opposed to if you were in a more rural area, you have some control, I think, considerable control over over your growth, depending on access to housing and other things in the community. So ultimately, population growth is a matter of aspiration. So hopefully this report helps you as you think about what's your target growth rate for population in the years ahead. So what are your growth opportunities? Well, a lot of this comes right out of your own plan. Austin has been doing quite a work there, and we work with you on that. And I think there's really great opportunities in terms of your town center, downtown development, the Trans-Canada Highway exit, building on the Green Pig and the whole sort of Masstown Market kind of vision for Salisbury, very interesting. Assuming you can get your water.
We'll get it.
Talked about that with the mayor earlier. The business, and I guess there's a report coming up. Francesco,
Later on.
back to talk about some, what do you call it, cost benefit analysis? So you get to see Francesco's.
Yeah.
Is also take. And then, forget about this, but we have 150 to 200 businesses in our community. We have 300 non-employers. We have lots of entrepreneurs here. But about 40% of them, or a little over 40%, are retiring in the near future. So you're going to have people to replace them, or those businesses might just shut down. So we do need to think about, as a community, how we attract entrepreneurs, not only for the existing businesses, but for new businesses or new opportunities. And I think this is kind of a bit of a blind spot for us because, 40% of business owners are age 55 and older. So I encourage you to be thinking about that as well. And then I think, we talked briefly, again, this is just a summary report. It's not meant to go into great detail on every issue. We can talk briefly in here about the importance of infrastructure, whether it's water and wastewater or communications infrastructure. When we've met with the mayor, there's some concerns around that as well, and the wider area, other municipal infrastructure, recreation, and so on, and then service, commercial, industrial line is important. Important role for the municipality to make sure we've got the capacity to grow the industries that we want and the housing that we want. So that's my presentation. Happy to answer any questions you might have. As I said, I was excited to go around the region, sort of forensically looking at each of the municipal economies. It's kind of fun to see the differences and to see the opportunities and to give you one small document to help support you as you think about it.
So David, first of all, I love it, even the word vision and the opportunity. You mentioned healthcare and the opportunities there, and I'm constantly pitching to government around, one of our councilors constantly talks about over 12 minutes to the Ryan Road area of Moncton. So how do we use this data and this report in a future visioning perspective on taking the radius for our community to become a service center or a service hub to take the burden off? Again, it's really an imaginary line between us and the city of Moncton, in that those Ryan Road area residents are all coming to Salisbury, whether it be the Green Pig and all those different areas today. How do we start to use this data? We have been having conversations with government, but how do we start positioning it as, whether it be the housing accelerator funds or a lot of the different funds where they seem to think the city deserves all this money to build, which is creating social problems, as opposed to putting them in our area, which can actually take the burden off and actually create a quality of life for all areas.
Yeah. So I think you need to position the community as part of the solution, right, in terms of healthcare, but other services to take the pressure off the urban center, but also to limit the commute for people that live further out and so on. They're a very convenient location. We made this case a bit with Fundy Albert, because we can go all the way up to Alma, let's say. It's a huge commute coming all the way to the city. So somewhere conveniently located in that municipality, there should be some sort of healthcare hub, let's say. Whatever opportunity here in this community. So, you know, the province is, it's always tricky. I mean, like even things like doctor's offices and other of these ambulatory care services, you know, you can actually, and we didn't do that in great detail, but you can actually go in and see where you might be deficient in terms of services per thousand population, and then make the case literally to government, but also to health authority and so on. I'm going to do that for non-health services, right? If you don't have enough veterinary services, you do, but let's say you didn't, you know, you can go out and pitch that to try to attract those businesses to your community to meet the needs. And the last thing I would say is, it's not a bad idea to actually survey your population to see what they'd like to see in the community. And if you can back that up with data, then you've got two powerful ways to make a case. So our residents would like to see more of this in the community. Get data suggesting there's demand for it in the community, and then you go out and you try to track that service to the community. And you can talk to Francesco's team about ways they might be able to help you. They do a lot of business, small business support and other services.
You talked about the numbers of needs in workforce. Are there in-depth studies on the changing workforce and what that looks like? Like where the need is within that workforce, like if we need to replace 1,100 workforce counts, what kind of needs do we need to follow?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that in there. There's not a great analysis there. The trick is, you know, the technology is going to disrupt the workforce even over the next decade, whether it's artificial intelligence or robotics or automation. So what I say to you is don't get too caught up in that. Just understand that, you know, there's going to be changes, and that as a community, you just want to make sure you've got a growing population that supports workforce demand. Now, you can go through there and you can see you've got a large, you know, sales and service workforce. So a lot of people live in the community, work in the sales and services industry, or as occupations, not industry. I think we talked about other occupations in here as well. Healthcare is a huge one. Trades, transportation, and equipment operators. And again, there's 1,100 that live in the community that work in those sectors. Now, they may be disrupted by technology, getting more automated drivers, things like that. But if let's say you need truck drivers and say, well, we don't, you know, maybe 10 years out, the trucks are going to drive themselves. Well, you know, I think that's a big, you know, you can't just assume that's going to happen. So there's some information on an occupational basis in here, but I would suggest, you know, there could be more work done to dive a little deeper there, for sure. But we know very specifically to service industries like childcare support and healthcare and things like that, and those industries are going to be in fairly high demand. Construction, we don't have a construction workforce. You can have all the houses plants you want. You know, workers, that's just a bottleneck. It's not one we're thinking about enough right now, but we need construction workers.
Thank you. Councilor Paul.
First one is, you mentioned the working from home. Would that be, I know agriculture is one place. Would home base, even though you're working for something that you can closely, be monthly for these workers up there?
Yeah, so technically speaking, they are, but there's some data challenges with that. For example, if I work for, let's say, MedAV, and maybe 3 days a week I work from home, I'm not showing up for the data. So at the time of the census, if I told the census taker before I wrote down on my form they would work from home, that's what's counted as home. See what I'm saying? So if you work for an employer, and there's a mix there, or maybe you know, at the time of census, you didn't work from home and now you do, that would pick up.
Yeah. So I know that I don't see an option where we can resist money. Just being where we're located and how fast is it starting. It's just very interesting. What would happen if we did? I'm saying that because we've had a bit of resistance in the last with change. And I'm curious what happens if we just continue to, or not continue, but if we resist.
Yeah. So that's actually, that's the existential question. That's the question that you need to ask. If you don't have public support for it, then it's going to impact negatively, right? And would actually affect your ability to get elected council. So you have to, if you're going to grow, you kind of have to have support. Everybody in the public, but in general, the public needs to understand why you need to grow, at least moderate. So
They don't want higher taxes.
that's, sure, that's a huge issue, but also.
Main reasons to grow.
It's the main reason to grow, but also don't forget this workforce issue that we've talked about now. People need to understand, over 1,000 people retire. And if you want people to be working in the corner store, if you want people that are, doing home-based services, or if you need work, you need workforce. So one of the messages we need to take to the public is, look, we understand, we don't like more cars on the road, or some stress, but as the councillor said here, also we want to maintain, so there is taxes that much. But also, if we don't have the workers for our employers, they're going to close, and you're going to have to drive into Moncton to get services that you were used to here. If you want to get a good meal in their city, if you want it, right? So there's a lot of, I think we need to focus on explaining to our population that aging workforce, and we need to be able to meet the workforce demand for the community. Now, somebody might say, rightly, well, maybe somebody will drive in. But people, a lot of times, don't commute for service industries, right? Because, they're not necessarily high wage and things like that. So yes, you need to have a good mix of population to meet the demand of the workforce, and that's one of the main concerns. So I understand that. I understand there's going to be more pressure to say we don't want growth at all. But it's a risky business to not grow, at least moderate.
I think your point to automation and robotics is only partially correct. The milk truck may drive itself in the future, but it will not hook up to my milk tractor, will drive itself, but it will not put the seed in the hopper. Like, there are certain things you may be able to do more as an individual worker, but you will not have everything completely dealt with through automation and robotics.
I'm just saying, when I go around to these municipalities or when I talk to other audiences, they're saying, well, yes, we know we've got all these people retiring, but technology is going to take care of it.
It's going to be a changing workforce.
Yeah.
It'll be a have to adapt to the new. But not everything is going to be just done by robotics.
I was surprised, if I come back in 10 years and you guys have shrunk as the population, I think you're going to see pretty negative impacts on the land.
There's not many buggy whip makers, and I understand that concept, but a lot of other stuff will still be good.
I think that's the right approach. It's the right approach. You need a moderate level of growth, ensure you have the workers to meet demand and to pay taxes and to take advantage of opportunities. There's no good reason why you don't have a good hotel by the highway. I think that's a good vision. And
Magnetic Hill.
reason why we don't.
It's all there already. But my question is housing really the catalyst that will deal with a lot of the other issues?
Housing is the catalyst that will deal with much of the other issues. I guarantee you would have grown a lot faster if you had help. But now, as we look to the future, we have numbers showing the kind of demand and the kind of population growth that we'd like to see here to keep up with workforce demand. Then you can kind of think through, well, how many housing and what kind of housing, what kind of units. I'm a big believer, I don't know where you guys are in modular housing, but I still think that's a huge opportunity. The quality is so much greater now than it was maybe 30 years ago.
Affordability.
Started, but they're
That's the trick.
but if it's got to be at least a little more affordable up here. City.
Yeah. Much better.
It is.
Yeah, you can get a lot done here. They're a lot cheaper than. I mean, the cost of product is still the cost.
Right, still pay for the 2x4s and everything else, but it's got to be a little
The
cheaper.
land cost is a little bit cheaper.
But I see that you have those 11 workers that are planning to retire. Do they need to stay in the larger houses they raise their families in?
No, but
or can they downsize? And therefore, having the opportunity to either start a family in a smaller house or to downsize to a smaller house. That's where the opportunity is in that smaller retirement / starting out. Then it frees up housing stock.
I think you also have to have the amenities in town. Because those people who are retiring, a lot of them may move somewhere else where they're, the amenities are there. If they're not there, we don't facilitate that to encourage them to stay. Even if they do downsize, you're absolutely right, they want to downsize, but they want to be able to have the amenities as well.
No disputing that point, but I think there's two different versions of somebody who's just retiring, the amenities they would want versus someone heading just before the nursing home. Those amenities are going to be a little bit different. But
a nursing home without walls for them.
yeah, exactly.
But that is, I'm glad you're thinking of this stuff because the migration within the housing is incredibly important. A lot of seniors and older folks would downsize, but they don't have options.
Yes.
So when you're planning your housing mix, you need to think about that.
And that's,
Because they will free up the larger single family home and move into something that's, maintenance, taking care of them and so on, right? And smaller and so on. So, and I think Richard Sion did some housing work, just a higher level view of that. But as you guys dig in, that's exactly the right approach. Because I think this is one of the problems in the city, right? Like 80% of all new construction now are multi-unit. And you need multi-unit, you probably need multi-unit here, right, for the mix. But at the end of the day, a lot of these folks are going to say, okay, I've been in a multi-unit for 3 or 4 years, now I want my own home.
But those are people who are coming from multi-unit countries
But
in general. That's are used to that concept.
sure.
Or not to retire to a multi-unit.
Right. I still think in the long run, many of them are going to want maybe side by side. We can get into a big discussion. about
understand,
how-
they're saying the shift, they're saying the shift is going to where what you're.
But I think it's a golden opportunity to take the folks that are living in these single family dwellings now as they age, give them alternatives. Where they can downsize, and maybe cash out too. Maybe it's a rental versus they own here, whatever that looks like. But it does open up housing stock for people that are looking for those single family.
This is part of our strategy.
It's a really good approach.
Some additional questions for David?
Well, I appreciate it. I wish you guys all the best as you've got a dynamic young CAO and mayor that wants to get things done. So
No, I don't know, we met on Saturday morning and again today, so it's a nice long week, right?
the taxpayer knows that it's
All right.
overtime.
All right, so thank you, David, as always.
Thank you.
We don't. there's more.
Okay. All right, so thank you very much. We're gonna move on to item 4.3. We have Jennifer from Hyundai Biosphere Region that is here. How are you tonight? It's like old whole week here today.
I'm using my computer to put my notes on the PowerPoint presentation, so I can move the fun.
Okay. You're you, or
Okay, so hello, I'm Jennifer. That was an awesome segue into what we're going to be talking about today.
okay, then can we,
What's
so, okay, can we have a call for a recess, please?
Sorry.
Can I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, do I have a motion to enter back into the regular committee of the whole meeting? So moved by Councillor Dykstra, seconded by Councillor Bannister. And with that, we will reconvene. We've got Jennifer from the Hyundai Biosphere Region. Welcome back, Jennifer.
Thank you. Well, hopefully I'll have a little snapping if you're excited to listen to me for a few minutes. Okay, so I was going to say that was a great segue because we're talking about growth and amenities and things like this, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about nature. So I'm Jennifer from Hyundai Biosphere Region.
Yep.
Okay. I manage both of the UNESCO designations in New Brunswick, the Hyundai Biosphere region, which we're in right now, and the Stoneham Geopark, which is in and around the surrounding areas of St. John. So if you can go to the slide that map to show, or am I supposed to do it? Oh my gosh, just, I don't like to do myself. Perfect. Okay, so this is the 2 UNESCO designations. It's pretty significant because it's the only place in North America where 2 UNESCO designations like this overlap in that yellow area in the St. Martin's area. And we're right in the Hyundai Biosphere. And so this is one of 19 biospheres in the country, and all of the biospheres are mandated by UNESCO to have a core protected area. Ours is Hyundai National Park. Have a buffer around that core area for the biodiversity, protecting the biodiversity of that core area, which is a little bit of land surrounding Fundy National Park. And then the rest is transition, because we really are a place where people and nature are in balance and are working towards sustainability. And so we have a program, the Amazing Places program, 50 places within the biosphere. Most of them are, all of them are on hiking trails. Some of them are get out of your car and stand on a hiking trail and you can see the amazing place. Some of them are a few days in on the Fundy footpath. So there's something for everybody, but it really gives an opportunity to really showcase places that are within this region that are spectacular. And the geopark is similar. They have geosites, or we have geosites, 15 of them that we encourage people to go to really understand the geology of the place. I usually put this in here too for various levels of government. People like to know how we're funded. We're a nonprofit organization. So this is just the biosphere. Oh, there we go. This is just the biosphere. We're now not talking about Stoneham anymore. The vast majority of our money right now comes from federal sources, with about 15% from provincial, and then various other partnerships. Municipal, could be foundation, could be donations, comes from the other, so that's 17%. And then our expenses are, vast majority are staff time and contracts to do our projects, and project materials and admin, meetings, communication, that kind of stuff. So I just like to put that there so you kind of orient yourself on how we get and spend our money. We're a nonprofit organization. We're not a charitable organization, but we have partners with charitable organizations so that we can get foundation money if so, if our projects align with that. So the biosphere in general is about people and nature in balance, and really celebrating the global culture and ecology of a place. But we have our strategic plan, 4 main pillars of our work around biodiversity conservation, forests of the future and climate action, celebrating people and nature. That's like tourism. There's a bunch of work in there about showcasing the region under the celebration one. And sustainable communities, we really gear towards like waste or cleanups or plastics in the ocean. So things that are geared more towards sustainability. And today I'm going to talk to you a bit about biodiversity conservation, or just in general nature, and nature in municipalities. So we talked about at the last presentation, we talked a little bit about assets, and I looked through their things for this, and many of the photos are of people in nature here in Salisbury. So that's pretty exciting to see, and that's something that's super ingrained in a lot of the municipalities in the biosphere, and especially this one too. And so some of those natural places can benefit from conservation, from official conservation status. And so municipal land can be one of those things that can get recognized as a conservation space. And so really I'm talking here about areas that are owned or managed by municipalities, and the areas would need to contribute to biodiversity and ecosystem health. So they need to contribute to the natural environment. They can be things like parks or natural areas. It could be woodlands. It could be green spaces between housing developments. I'll show you a couple of specific examples here in Salisbury, but they're essential to kind of support nature, wildlife. They can do things like stormwater retention, water filtration for groundwater, carbon sequestration for climate resiliency. There's a million things. It's not just about biodiversity. There's a lot of benefits to having conservation land within municipalities. And in New Brunswick, there are a number of conservation tools that we use to recognize conservation land for now and forever. And one of those ways is the Class 1 or Class 2 protected natural area. Or just recently, in the last couple of years, there's the nature legacy sites. And that's how the province went from 4.6% land conservation now to 10% of New Brunswick is considered to be conserved forever. But the biodiversity targets that are set by the international community and have been sort of a goal of Canada as well is the 30% of Canada by 2030 is what the federal government has committed to. And the province now with our new government has committed to 15%, so another 5%. From where we are now, and a roadmap to 30%. So because there's a lot of crown land, and a lot of our crown land is being harvested or used for economic development, and that's our province. So there's complex issues at hand in order to get to 30%. So there's protected natural areas, but there's this other thing, an other bucket of conservation land. And it could be things, well, it's this other effective area-based conservation measures, OBCMs. It's so confusing, but it was, or a bad acronym, but it was set by the international community. So here we go with it. So OECMs are recognized in a federal database for conservation, as would be a protected natural area or nature legacy site. And so would lands like Nature Trust and the New Brunswick Nature Trust, or Nature Conservancy of Canada, or the Mi'kmaq Land Trust. Those are all recognized in CPCAD, a protected area database, and are similar to this like perpetuity. They're conserved forever, like protected natural areas. So it's kind of like an other bucket, and that's where municipal land can come into play to be part of this whole suite of conservation. And the benefits of the OECM recognition tool is that it really highlights the local community who wants to contribute to conservation for whatever reason. Could be stormwater management, could be climate resiliency, could be urban heat sinks. It doesn't matter the reason for conservation if you're hitting the targets, and then it can be recognized as a conservation space through this tool. And one of the benefits of getting land recognized using the OECMs is that it can sometimes open up opportunities for stewardship from NGOs or others, can open up opportunities for funding from federal government, provincial government, or to bring in resources from varying sectors. And then it also showcases leadership from municipal governments that they're looking for ways to benefit their community, have these natural assets, and bring people to have happy people close to nature. You know, people and home prices and things like this are more expensive when they're near beautiful nature places. So it's often very valuable for municipalities to be looking at nature parks as part of their land stewardship. The key thing here to also know is that OECMs don't mean, the intention is protected in perpetuity, but it doesn't mean that you give up rights to managing the land in the way that you intend. And there's always an opportunity for public safety to trump biodiversity. And so in the case of, you know, if it's development because of water, drinking water or something like that, these are things that totally would help. It's really up to the municipality to develop a management plan, and then to have that management plan last for so that these areas can be protected and recognized as conservation for generations to come. But it doesn't change the land ownership or the authority that you have over this land.
Does selective logging go into that to try to remove some of the fuel for wood wildfire?
Yeah, it's at my very last slide, I'll describe how this all happens through the provincial government. And there was a intention that like nothing can happen on these OECMs. And now there's a better understanding that like, well, you know, sustainable forestry might even be in motion in these areas, but also things that reduce public safety risks, like, you know, reducing wildfires, or if there's, a need for like a cell tower because like there's nothing there and you could put something on the edge of one, like that's okay. It's for public safety here, there's management's allowed.
Does any land that goes into this type of conservancy, is any critical mineral deposits that all of a sudden locked in perpetuity as well?
Yeah, so typically in New Brunswick, anything that's not under the Protected Natural Areas Act, even if it's a land trust land, municipal land, anything, there are still mineral rights. It's very, very difficult to distinguish the mineral rights in New Brunswick. The only way to do that is through the Protected Natural Areas Act under a Class 1 or Class 2 PNA. So it's unlikely that like the minister would approve a pit mine in Mill Creek Nature Park, which is a conservation area, because there's people who live there. There is a community that, you know, uses that as a nature trail, and it is an OEC, it's recognized as an OECM. But it's not guaranteed. We still have to go through the processes of that some people put a claim on it, and then explore, and then the minister will have an opportunity to decline or to approve that. Okay, so specific. In Salisbury, there are a handful of municipal-owned lands that we've had some conversation with staff, and we're interested in pursuing as an opportunity for conservation. The covered bridge site, this is an area that used to be a landfill. There's opportunities for some sustainable trail building that could happen there. It could open up some opportunities for us and other nonprofit organizations to get some funding to do some remediation there as well. And so there's an opportunity potentially to look at that one as conservation space. Highland Park, obviously you all know and love. It's a beautiful wetland with a nice trail, and it has opportunity for us to conserve that as well, with the opportunity to manage it as a recreation area, but with the second feature of being a nature place and conserving biodiversity. And it also gives a good opportunity, because it's so well loved and used, to put signage to showcase what's happening in the municipality around conservation and green spaces. And then the last one is a bit interesting. Treatment plant. There's a large piece of land here that is owned by the municipality, and we've kind of taken out of the opportunity the actual treatment ponds, but the rest of it is forested or kind of a wetland and a grassy area, and it is a candidate for conservation because it allows this like tributary, the brook, to flow through. It's well forested, and there are a huge number of birds species there. So it's a really good candidate as well for management that's in line with conservation.
Those birds, just out of curiosity, are they more in the woodland or are they in the grass?
They're both, and well, and third, they're also in the pond.
They're in the ponds.
But that grass will not stay grass over time. That will become trees.
Yes.
Nothing is done to them.
So it depends on, like what the management of the land is, but the intention of the, perfect, segue. Okay, so the intention of getting a conservation space is that it goes through a biodiversity assessment. So what is the biodiversity today? And what is the management plan? So maybe there isn't a management plan. We can help develop that so that it's in line with what the landowner wants, but also that is in keeping with biodiversity conservation that is required for this recognition. And we do that work on the land and with the landowners to kind of get ready to do what's called a decision support tool. It's quite a long document that showcases all of the biodiversity and management planning, the levers that allow you to enforce the conservation of that area. We do that work, by the way, so we do the decision support tool and create the plan with you, but I'm just saying it doesn't take a lot of effort on our end. We are funded to do the work. And then it goes, once we're satisfied with it with our landowner partners, it goes to the province for review, because ultimately the province is the deciding factor on whether this gets recognized as conservation or not. And it goes on to the federal government, but if the province has said yes, the federal government just checkbox, like they don't do a second review. The other option is if the province brings it in, then we could just go, there's two options. You could go just to the federal government, they can approve it, or it can go to the provincial government. But we work with the provincial government because they're the local entity to do that. So they may, at the provincial review, have additional feedback. We did Mill Creek. They were wondering for the mineral rights. How are we going to make sure that we don't have drilling or mining there? And the act, the Mineral Act, showcases this lever that the Minister of Natural Resources has to decline an option. So likely they wouldn't do that, in this small nature park. There's other places potentially to drill. If it was like something like there's diamonds there, maybe he would say go for it. But the likelihood of that is very low, and so it passed the decision support tool. Well, at that stage, it can then go to a conservation recognition agreement, which is the municipality and the province agreeing to have a piece of property recognized as conservation. And once that agreement is signed by both the minister and the mayor, then it goes on to Environment Climate Change Canada to be submitted to the protected areas database. And then you've got a conservation area. So some of the time, like in the town of review, for example, this took 4 years, and all along this whole process, biodiversity was still being conserved. It doesn't mean that like you do the work once you're recognized. It's ongoing. Probably all of these places that I've listed, if we continue to do the things that we're doing, biodiversity would be conserved, but often it's quite nice to have it recognized. So just as a little recap, the reason why this is important, why municipal conservation is important, is because it protects local biodiversity. So people can go birding and they can see what's out there. They can, enjoy nature. People can be together with nature. It's not too separate. It also builds community or climate resilience. So there's opportunities for stormwater management. There's carbon sequestration. There's all kinds of values for the climate as well in these conservation areas. These are usually places in municipalities that are also managed for recreation, and so can improve community well-being. People love to live close to walking trails, nature trails, that kind of stuff. And they also love to have forests between them and their neighbors if there's like housing developments and stuff like this. So having those pre-planned in your municipal plans that are going to be there forever also helps people decide to move here, stay here, that kind of stuff. It supports national, and global goals, is 30%, 30 by 30, the 30% land conservation by 2030. Also maximizes local land value. And so there's a lot of research that showcases the distance from someone's home to a nearby nature park or nearby nature trail increases the land value. So people want to live in those places more than they would if they were next to an industrial park or further housing developments with not a lot of nature between them. And it reinforces community pride. People love to be able to say that they walk their dogs in a conservation area and that they help, on the weekends to pick up garbage in a conservation area. It really does build this like sense of pride of place, and it builds a legacy in the municipalities to like really focus on people and nature as like a sort of a cohesive thing with it. So that's the presentation. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to ask.
Just on Allen Park, you identified as an opportunity. If that were to become conservation land and you would develop a management plan for that particular piece, is landscaping still allowed? Is mowing still allowed? It's like what kind of management is allowed as a conserved area?
It really depends on the biodiversity. So that's why one of the first things is biodiversity assessment. And so if the biodiversity is that is in keeping, so if it was a beautiful old growth forest and that's the biodiversity we're trying to keep, then the management plan would likely not include things like select harvesting or building like a road or like things like this. But since this area is a wetland and like a pond and there is a trail, the likelihood of mowing impacting the biodiversity that's already there is pretty low. However, it also there's also opportunities to make the delineation of the actual conservation area not in the places that you mow, so that you can decide that these areas are going to be mowed grass that are well kept and landscaped and planted with non-native flowers, like that's fine. But the parts that are more native and are going to be left without a lot of human input each year, those are the pieces that are conservation.
Which Austin and I have chatted about, which is very important for our community to learn about, so generations from now, we have these assets that we talked about. I know from my perspective, Jennifer, I just want to thank yourself as well as Fundy Biosphere. Many people in the council may or may not be aware, but we have hundreds of trees that were planted thanks to Fundy Biosphere. We've received so much advice from your group, which has been instrumental because we're not subject matter experts in a lot of these things. Austin's not a hydrologist, is it?
Right.
But we're all learning from you and your groups. We appreciate that on some of the things we participated in, and even some land that we were able to acquire at our park was through the partnership. And I've used the word partnership. It's been a true partnership. So I just want to thank you. These are the type of opportunities that we grow our community. We have to learn from the experts. And for our community, the one trail you mentioned, I do believe the treatment plan area, that may be a first of its kind to be considered for this type of thing. So for us to be leaders in that, I think it's pretty cool. I do know that some of the councilors got to walk around the polishing pond area earlier this year. Did you last year with it? Okay. But if we get the opportunity, I know many of us have had the opportunity to explore beyond that, and it takes our current wetlands trail, and it blows it away. The amount of bird species, It's incredible. It's truly an asset that we have here. That's the jewel of our community that we could tap into. So I just wanted to thank you for that. Additional questions?
I know like many mediations and things like that, we can kind of, put our own with agreement with you guys, yes, with the buffers and things like that. How does the, aside from DNR developing or interrupting unserved land, I guess, I'm not familiar with like how's, what buffers the conservation property, it's not.
It's literally just up to exactly where we draw it.
100%.
Yeah, it's like, and so it's good in a way because it means that you can choose something now that isn't going to inadvertently impact something later that you don't know about totally. But it is a risk because if, like let's use Funny National Park as a perfect example. They're harvesting right up to the boundary of Funny National Park, which is it's brown land. That's part of what has been agreed to with the harvesters. But it means that like there's quite an edge effect happening, which means biodiversity in the first few hundred meters of Funny National Park is not actually that well protected. So there is risk for edge effects in the conservation area. And that's part of the reason why through the decision support tool, we have to showcase that the biodiversity that is there isn't in such a tiny spot that it would be impacted if, you paved the entire surrounding of it. We need to showcase that there's a significant enough piece of land, which there would be at Highland Park, to conserve the biodiversity that's there, regardless of what's happening in the outside of the boundaries. Because, once you've made a management plan on a particular property, it doesn't bleed out into the surrounding areas.
What impact the bridge installation later on?
Well, no, there's like with wetlands and development group buffers, like this, to do certain things, and it's quite a bit, it's like 80 meters.
Yeah, like 30 meters around the street, yeah.
So I just, where that area, I'm looking into that area, at least just curious how it might impact the immediate property, like the amphitheaters on, and things like that.
And even like just the preliminary kind of area where we'll have the biosphere crew come and look at is specific to the bottom. What we would know is the bottom level of the park, which we have in the last couple of years been actively working with the province with respect to wetlands and managing recreation areas within them. And how do we get the trail in there, and how does trail point A get to trail point B? And there's things like pavers in between that are all part of provincial requirements that we have to do. And so this also helps us look at what as a municipality should and could we do to make sure that we're protecting kind of that kind of core area there, because there's some things that like we often ask the question, like what about XYZ or whatever, like even in terms of just municipal operations and it being a park. So this will help us create a management plan that kind of lays that out within a larger kind of grand scheme of what other communities are doing and what's being done across the country and the world of this too. So.
You can't undo it, right? Like this is, I mean, the province, the ministry can, I guess.
Oh, so no, because you're the landowner, you would be able to undo it or not undo it. The intention is that you do not, we have to showcase through the decision support tool, there is an intention for this to be forever. It's protection in perpetuity. However, there are often times that things go into the Canadian Protected Areas database and then later something happens and they come back out. If we're going down the path of we might do that, we might go in and then we'll go back out, we already failed decision support tool. It's really meant to be forever. But there isn't, there's probably some annexing or something that the provincial government could do, but I don't know. But this is sort of sneaking.
Rules only apply.
Right. So, but no, it wouldn't be that a different entity could take off the conservation value.
Interesting, because we are politicians, right? We've been there for 4 years, which could be different, people seeing and different values.
And that's why
It goes to say.
Yeah, so that's why the decision support tool, we have to really showcase the robustness of the efforts that the council has put in place. And so it's about council and some staff and community. We need to really showcase to the community, this is a conservation area. It can't just be behind closed doors that we know it's a conservation area, but no one else does. Because the intention is that if
You're proud of it, you want.
you were, yeah, so if you were to then say like, maybe we could put a hotel like right on that wetland because it's got a beautiful like scenery, then hopefully, because over the years we've said this is really important biodiversity and stormwater management and whatever, and then that came to council, then we would hopefully have council, but also community members say, well, didn't we agree that this is a conservation area? And we sure would too, because we want to make sure that these places that we think are of high value stay that way forever. And there are lots of opportunities to develop in other places. So it's.
I guess that's why I brought it up.
Yes.
It was more because I would want to make it extremely hard to reverse somehow. Like if we were going to do it, because you don't know, like, none of us will be here in 10, 15 years, probably, right? In 1.5 maybe.
In part, here's a conservation recognition agreement, because you as a landowner are signing something with the province to say that this is going to be conserved. I can send you the conservation recognition, like a blank one, just to see what it says. But the intention is that we would work together continuously, my staff with your staff, to make sure that you're comfortable with the delineation, management plan, and make sure that it's something that, you know, isn't feeling like restrictive, but also isn't feeling like it's going to be undone by the next council as well. So that's we just work together for the next few months to get it done.
And there's some pieces,
Do we have the ability to state that we have so many acres of conservation land? So therefore, if something's taken in the future, some more would have to be put back in. So there's a minimum level of conservation land in the council.
you mean like the wetland compensation almost, but the opposite process? I don't know if other places have done something like that. There might be something there for zoning, I don't know.
If you turn to a boat anchor, that it's hard to take it out because then you have to replace it with something else.
There could be something municipally, like there could be something like our own, how we manage our own land and assets.
I'm gonna look into something.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
That's an extra step.
That's an extra step, but I think to Jen's point, when you make this so compelling that no one's ever gonna want to.
And
I get it, but
there's other site, like I think there was 5 that initially we looked at, and ultimately 3 are kind of going to be explored to the next step, but one of them is a municipal site that's going through EIA right now, where eventually there will be a good contender within that could be looked at in OACN. But right now, the likelihood is that there's probably going to be development in there. So we will park that, let the development happen, and then say, okay, now within the parameters of this, the site specifically being engineered for conservation can now be part of this decision-making tool potentially. So this isn't intended to be like a one and done. The town could also acquire land down the road that should and could be, go through this process. So the intent is to have that agreement and start it with these sites, and then, yeah, it's not like then the biopsy region doesn't ever come back and we don't look at any other sites and how we say it, so.
Yeah, so I have a question about these 3 sites, and the treatment plant one specifically. What happens 15 years from now? Expansion. The town has grown significantly and you need to expand the treatment plant. Are we then locked in and can't, or?
Way to answer that.
No, and so my intention would be to make sure that we have a reasonable understanding of what that might look like in 10 or 15 years for the footprint of new lawns. And we wouldn't include that in the initial delineation. However, again, like I'll give another example. They're in a protected natural area. This is the highest value. This is the highest protected areas in our province, protected natural areas. There was a need for a cell tower at the tippy top of this conservation area. And it's been one of the conservation areas since the beginning in 2000 of the Protected Natural Areas Act. And because it was deemed to be needed for public safety, they allowed a road and a tower at the top of it. We were like, what? But at the same time, it is for public safety. Like we need to have these pieces of infrastructure. And so the Protected Natural Areas Science Advisory Committee for the province like really looked at the plans and we actually made them change the road like totally. So that it wasn't the cheapest option, but it was better for conservation, biodiversity and protection of the landscape that was there. And so they still were able to build their cell tower, but they did it in a road that was with less in. So I would imagine if like, you know, Funny Vice here delineating the sewer treat or the wastewater treatment plant. And then it's like the engineer says like, it's gotta be there. If you can, we would rework the delineation, put it back into CP code. It's okay. It's not meant to be like, no, like the, you know, the feds are gonna come and like, you said that was conservation, now you can't do anything. Like it's not, it's meant to be as from the best of our information and the tools that we have in place to enforce forever, but there are extenuating circumstances constantly in our world
I
that
think
make things change.
there's a problem with forever. It may be generational, but it'll be for a long period of time, I would say that.
For sure.
Just may not always be, like, the lime plant now operating, they buy up land, they'll plant trees, they have no intention of mining those particular sites anytime in the next 10, 20, 30 years, so why not plant trees while you're waiting to get to that point? And that's where using that time efficiently from the environmental perspective is already low.
In engineering world wise, we're, an RFP closes in the next few weeks on what the potential of the town's wastewater system will look like. So we will loop that conversation in with this conversation, and we kind of know high level from historical conversations of what will need to happen and where. And so that will be taken into account with these areas too, but from our end, it's been Trevor and I that have been part of these conversations, so Trevor would not let that slide. He would raise that flag pretty quick. So yeah, there's no concerns on that front. And I can't remember if it was you or Jenna that mentioned it, but the reason that is a unique site is because it shows that conservation, like municipal operations have to happen and they look like this and they look like treatment plants. But conservation also should happen, and it's unique to show that they can happen hand in hand. Like, yes, municipalities have to do this, but they can do it in a way that is sustainable and environmentally friendly. So that's why it's kind of a unique.
Will be leaders.
Yeah, Jenna is particularly excited about the treatment plant. She's gung ho with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we don't need to have this, like, it's a personal thing for me. Growing up, my parents had a lot of property in central New Brunswick, and my father every 5 years hired that environment. Just, it was not kind of purpose the property. They would come in and look at the property and what do we need to clear or not clear near the water for it to continue to do its thing. Anyways, I still remember walking through. It's little, so pretty cool. It still looks great, but it still does that.
Managed.
Is there any additional questions?
There is a
We do
recommendation.
have a recommendation that we need to bring forward. If anybody would like to read that, and then we'll give general consensus to staff.
I move that council direct administration to continue exploring designated proposed municipal sites as OECM and bring final recommendations to council at a future council meeting for ratification following additional field work.
Moved by Councillor Glenn, seconded by Councillor Dykstra. Questions to the motion? Seeing no questions, all in favor? Aye. Contrary minded? You have your direction?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
See you again soon. And if you want to come out and walk the street,
I got the plan, what was it, 25,000th tree on, with you,
Yes.
2 summers ago? 45 was a lot of them anyway. So,
And I don't know if it was on purpose, but in the planted photo in your presentation, that's at Highland Park. That's Trevor that's in the picture planting.
it was purpose.
Yeah, I didn't know.
It's like, in my drive, Highland Park.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, with that, we'll move on to item 4.4 and a housing update. I believe in Austin, you will be
Yes.
taking us home.
So this is just an information update for council and fits well with some of the agenda items that we had this evening, but was on the docket nonetheless. If you go, I can take, where's the stuff? Grab it. Staying here. if I can summarize it really quickly, it is just to brief council on, like I mentioned, housing progress in the context of the strategic plan and give some updates as to where we're at with a few housing developments. So this is all what has been either included in other reports or presented before, but as a summary, 86.5 of single unit dwellings, and when you include movable dwellings, it puts it over 95%, substantially higher than we see in many communities. Average household size of 2.5. If you look historically at permitting data, this is where you will see some elements of interest and where, while it may not feel like it immediately, we are seeing the needle move. But between 2018 and 2022, this is the full town, but there were 116 permits issued, which was an average of 23.2 per year. If you look at the former village where there are serviceable boundaries, there was only 5.6 units per year constructed during that time frame. That is generally where you want to see concentrated growth, given the fact that there are services there. And I always go to the Lions Villa to show what housing needs there are on a local level, but they operate 2 buildings and have over 150 on their wait list with the latest conversations that we've had with them.
How many units are in those buildings, do you know?
24 and 25, I want to say, so let's say 50-ish. Yeah.
So they're getting 3 times what they're.
In line with the.
Yeah, and I think part of the challenge that you'll hear from them is that there are people on the wait list that are on the wait list to be on the wait list because the wait list is so long. So there are people that may get a call that may have different housing needs, but there are people getting on the list because they know they need to get on the list to have any shot at getting within their housing offerings. Yeah. Permitting number wise, so in 2024, there were 77 permits issued. Of the residential breakdown, there were 23 new homes, 5 mobile mini homes, and 1 duplex. So we are seeing a slight increase from what was the annual average. If you looked year over year, you would see those numbers that I gave, the 22 or 2018 to 2022. A lot of it was on the later end. So this does reflect that. We wouldn't have expected much increase last year. That's kind of what we would call an organic growth. And we'll see starting in 2025 onwards that we're seeing some fruits of the labor per se. So in 2023, you can see that the construction value was 12.3 million, but the construction value in 2024 went up to 19.03. So there is a growth there. There is some non-residential components to that as well, of course. If you look at 2025, it gets a little bit interesting. And at the end of April, we were at 7.9 million. So year to date last year for that period was 1.8. So you can see that there is a big jump there. And of note, in March, we were second behind Riverview for permit construction value of the 11 communities in the southeast that are under Plan 360's purview. So that excludes Moncton and Dieppe. But that is, I would say, probably the first time that we were up that high on that list. There are communities that have been actively trying to get some of these numbers up as we have been, that have been ahead of us consistently for quite some time. There are a few anomalies for the month of March that helped that spike, but nonetheless, it is something that we can consider. So exactly. So as council knows, we approved an incentive program earlier this year that stemmed from a work that Stantec Consulting had done last year to explore what other communities have done to incentivize development. It was formally approved earlier this year. We allocated 150,000 in our 2025 operating budget. That was based on an increase from the recommended amount of 100,000 that was in the final report from Stantec. And good thing. To date, we've had 6 applications be approved, a number of other expressions of interest that are ongoing. We've committed 137, just over 137,000, of which 130 comes from our budget amount. That difference is based on permit rebates. So we get permit revenue and essentially give it back, so it doesn't come out of that 150,000 that's budgeted. And one highlight that is of note, although the project was just released in February, it does include a net new 8-unit, a varied housing style, which we don't have enough of, that was started on the sole basis of getting wind of this incentive program. So within that short time span, there's been an accepted offer on a parcel of land. with due diligence being completed and an application having been submitted and approved. So this is a good testament that the incentive program is doing its job very quickly. And then more than likely, we will quickly exhaust that funding for this year.
Just out of curiosity, do you have a rough idea, or can you at some point get a rough idea how quickly that incentive pilot funding will be returned?
Property tax wise, yeah, we can look at that. I wouldn't have an immediate answer, but as part of our,
I'd like to know how quickly, like, that return on investment is actually coming along.
you mean in terms of when we recoup?
Yeah, is it
Yeah.
3 years, 5 years,
Yeah.
10 years? I'd just like to know roughly what that is.
I know, I don't know that number because that's a recent one, but I can tell you one of the other projects that have been approved, it'll be in about a year and a half. So it's not a long time period. That's also a rental, and that's one of the buildings of 5, and the incentive max out at the first one. So if you take the year and a half, let's even round up to 2 years, and then you say all 5 buildings, it's less than a year, like in terms of what comes back to us. This has been chatted about today, as it often is, but a municipal water system. So as council knows, we've been actively exploring what this could look like. It is a challenge when it comes to increasing gentle density with respect to housing. A funding application was submitted in March of this year through the direct delivery stream with the feds. Essentially, as a summary, as council knows well, a conceptual design study was completed after exploration of own source potentials in 2022 and 2023 and 2024. Cost benefit analysis has also been completed and will be presented to council in the coming months. And the biggest challenge is the cost prohibitive capital infrastructure requirements to get water mains from point A to point B and being able to switch taps on and have municipal water flow from it. The overall build would exceed 117 million, and the first phase is almost half of that just to get the water lines here. And through different projects, the town's looking at different ways that we could potentially leverage area-specific options as we try to be a little bit innovative to get some of these housing numbers up as well. So just progress really quickly, and obviously recognizing that we can't divulge a whole bunch of contractual details and things that are being discussed that have not yet been formally ratified. But as a summary, there was the first street in, I think, 8 years in the community that was constructed last year, with the final plan having been submitted and just awaiting Empower sign off for the installation of power poles. We're seeing a subdivision that had been paused or stalled, see progress starting this month. We're exploring development on town-owned land, a number of developers who are actively seeking lands, whether that's accepted, pending offers, or coming to me every time an MLS listing is posted, asking about zoning and what could go there. And we're also seeing a number of institutional buildings, and something that's unique with us is that every level of government has been, in a 2-year span, has been committing to an institutional buildings, which we have not seen in a number of years, and most communities are jumping at the bit to get. So initially, that's the fire hall. Provincially, there are 2 buildings, one outside of the former village boundaries, and then an elementary school. That location is to be determined, but is committed. And then the feds have one as well in the coming months. And obviously that increases the tax base, which then helps us look at housing options as well. Just everything else that doesn't fit under its own slide. As council knows, the town submitted 2 housing accelerator fund applications, both of which were unsuccessful. I could spend an hour talking about some of the realities and challenges with respect to that process. But I will say that we've been able to see some of these numbers without that. So it's a testament to what could be possible if we were able to leverage one of those programs. We have 4 CHIP applications that are in preparation to be submitted to the province. So that's under the provincial and federal bilateral. As council knows, we're going through the zoning consolidation for the former village and former LSDs, which is expected to have 3rd reading at our June meeting and then ministerial approval. We've met with the new provincial minister of housing in March, and the zoning consolidation process also recommends looking at lot size requirements, which is part of that same process that I referenced for the treatment plan, and looking at potential expansion there. But that RFP is looking at lot sizes, capacity assessment for the municipal sewer, and with anticipated housing development, where do sewer lines go, and where do the manholes go, and where do any lift stations go, and having conversations with those landowners within the vicinity as well. As next steps too, as we continue this work and continue looking at making progress on our strategic plan priorities, we have the CHIP applications, obviously, that I just referenced, that then require ongoing advocacy to try and be the squeaky wheel to make sure we get our fair share. We have an EIA process that's ongoing for town-owned land. And then, as is recommended in the motion tonight, we have a new Minister of Housing federally, which we're recommending a drafted letter to send to him after his recent appointment. And of note for us in our world, the new minister is a former mayor, so much larger city, but larger place, but nonetheless understands the reality of local government. So with that, that's a quick update as to where we're at, where we're going, and what we've seen. I guess there's a recommendation on the floor specific to the letter, and can answer any questions.
I'll move the council direct administration to send the housing advocacy letter to the new Ministry of Housing and Strategy.
Moved by Councillor Cowell, seconded by Councillor Bannister. Questions to the motion?
Well,
I have one question. Is it worth calling out specifically water as it's our biggest limiting factor?
In the letter?
Yes.
Yeah, we could do that and put that, yeah, because the application was submitted to the Fed specifically, so we can
Put some of David's numbers in there.
certainly do that.
I was gonna ask a question about the water as well. I mean, this is all great, by the way. But we kind of went through it pretty quickly, and I guess if I was reading it without any further context, it doesn't look encouraging. Should I feel that way?
Water application, you mean?
Yeah.
The number is challenging for a number of reasons, both the cost of development for us, but also for the feds. As long as we show that we're exploring options at the same time, like we can't submit applications then expect to just sit idle on it and just hope for the best and like have our hands out. So where we're exploring on municipal land, where we control the land, control the outcome of that land, it gives us a unique opportunity to kind of say, okay, if this option is not favorable, then what could something look like? And we'll at least have information to support whether it is possible or not possible, so that we can use that to show the feds that we need this for XYZ reason, or work with us and do this solution instead. So that will give us a better understanding, but the challenge always is the number. It's a big one.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah.
Like, and I guess I think about all the other dependencies and all the other things
Right.
that we've talked about, that, you know, water becomes essentially the foundation of so many other things, and you sort of sit there and think, we need to be mindful of this as we start going down the road of so many other things, is that, you know, it goes back somewhat to the conversation that we had at the last meeting about risks.
Right.
And dependencies, and, you know, we can't, you know, double count stuff.
Right.
So, I just throw that out there as, don't have a solution, but we just gotta keep it in the back of our minds whenever we're making decisions about things that we're going to commit to.
Good points. Any additional questions or points?
Great work.
Yeah.
Right.
We're really proud.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Reminded, motion or direction carried. With that, we'll move on to item 4.5, Salisbury Summer Programming Overview, Department of Recreation and Wellness.
Yes. cool.
That's crazy.
Evening, everybody. As you all know, I'm Massimo with the town's recreation wellness department, and I'll start the presentation here whenever I get a chance. So my entire team here is going to be presenting their section. I just want to do an introduction. I'm going to Katie here first. So it's up to go down, right? Yeah. Up.
Yeah.
Put it on, right? All right, Katie, so first.
Massimo. So we have an exciting lineup of events and programming this summer. So I'm going to do an overview of our biggest events, some of which you may have already seen or I've been in contact with you already. I will say that all of the events that I do touch on, I will be sending out calendar invites later this week. So they will be in your calendar. You'll have them. So you don't have to worry about reminding or remembering dates or times that I talk about this evening. So first up, we have Canada Day, July 1st. We're hoping to follow the same format as we've done in years past, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Highland Park. If the weather seems to follow the theme that it has the last couple of weeks, we'll be moving to the fire hall, 56 Douglas. But we're hoping for good weather, and to utilize the amphitheater that is, beautiful at Highland Park. We do have live music returning this year. So we have the Pat Gillespie Band, attending to perform for the 2-hour event following the flag raising ceremony and any dignitaries that wish to provide greetings. So like I said, same format, free barbecue, games, cake, face painting, all that kind of fun stuff. I always like to put you folks to work. If you're planning on attending and you're looking to volunteer at barbecue, cake cutting, any sort of thing, let me know and I can add you to the list.
Look how adorable we are.
Exactly. That would be good. So if I don't hear from you, you can expect an email from me in the next 2 weeks. So next up, block parties. This is one that a lot of you I have been in touch with. So our full schedule, first one would be on July 10th, which is Ward 3 at Highland Park. This one will be from 6 to 7:30. Moving into Ward 2 on July 24th. We'll be at the Jordan again this year. This one will be moved up an hour to accommodate the resident schedule as it was last year. So this will be 5 to 6:30. July 31st, we'll be in Ward 1 at Second North River Baptist Church, moving back to our regular time of 6 to 7:30. And then in August 7th, we'll be in Ward 4 in the Riverbend subdivision off Patriot Court, which is where we were last year. We do have permission again from the landowner to put the bouncy castle on their property. I will say that they are family members of mine, and at every family gathering now, my cousins expect me to come with a bouncy castle. I'm officially the cool cousin, but I'm not. So this one we just released on Facebook last week, so a lot of you probably have heard about it already, but I'll dive a little bit deeper into the logistics and the event details. So we are hosting our first Salisbury Music Festival on the new amphitheater. So this is planned for July 17th from roughly 6 to 9 p.m., probably moving into 9:30 p.m. We have Big Bad Party Band, our headliner, with Stephen LeBlanc opening. And we're hoping to secure a few more musical talents that we can have more openers. So we're hoping to get some youth talent involved for anyone who's been to any coffee houses or Night of the Arts. We have a lot of talent in our schools. We're hoping to get them on stage and get them involved in events as well. So we'll have a few more musical guests in the works. And you'll also have Foxwoods Park that we are working with to figure out logistically if we can have them be a partner for that beer garden during the event as well. So some other logistics that isn't really included in the public event. We are focusing on retaining partners for parking for the event. We expect it to be a pretty large turnout, being a free concert. So we're looking at different organizations and businesses within the town that would be willing to let us use their parking lot to advertise parking. And we'll be including the bylaws surrounding event parking in our communications as well, to hopefully get that out as much as possible so people know. And then we're also hoping to get additional security for the event. Again, it being a free event, we're expecting to see a lot of people in there, so we just want to cover all their bases with that. Community Days, this year we are celebrating 50 years of Community Days, so since 1975. Community Days has been a staple in our community, so this year it falls on August 14th to 16th. Which again is Thursday to Saturday, as we typically see it. So with it being a commemorative year, we're hoping to get as much involvement with the community as possible, getting different businesses, organizations involved, hosting their own events. So just as a rough kind of outline or highlights, a lot of these aren't absolutely confirmed yet. We're waiting on some final details. But on Thursday, we see trivia night, which we introduced last year. And then we are hoping to bring in a comedy night in partnership with the Lions Club and Hubcap. That's one of those, as you can see, the details are to be finalized, but we're hoping that we can work that into our schedule as well. Friday, we have discussions of doing a casino night, bringing that back into the community and hoping to involve that as part of our schedule as well. And Saturday will look very similar to what we have had in years past with the parade back this year, so long as we get enough entrants. Moving into the market at 56 Douglas at the town office, and then we'll be moving to the park to do our lawn tractor races, beer garden, live music, all that fun stuff. So the details in terms of bands and all of that for live music is still to be finalized, but we're hoping that it will look very much in years past. I will note as well, since we do have a couple of questions about it already, the fireworks are being moved to some of our fall events, just to hopefully avoid what happened last year with fire ban and all the logistics surrounding that. So we will have fireworks this year, just not during communities. So with that, I'm going to move it over to Marty to talk a little bit about distraction and playground. Good evening, everyone. So I'm going to talk a little bit about participation. So we're going to have the kickoff event next Sunday from 1 till probably 3 o'clock. And it'll be held at Highland Park. And there is going to be a participation bingo game that's going to be released. The daycare's got copies today with the rules and some fun tips to go with that. They'll go out to the schools this week and seniors' homes as well. And then we'll create more awareness throughout the community, and everybody can pick up a copy, probably at the library since our office is closed. New program. No.
The opposite, yeah, it's confusing. Yes.
Okay, more about participation. So just some new things that we're going to bring in this year is, this year we're doing a quiet adult ballet class. And they're going to host that at Camp It Up. So yeah, that should be fun. I went to fitness class this morning, so they're pretty excited to give it a try. Denise, our fitness instructor, she's going to be doing Zumba and line dancing combo. She's going to try that at the amphitheater, so we'll see how that goes. So all programming will be free during the whole month of June. Also Andrew, our yoga instructor, he's going to be doing a free yoga in the park class. I think it's June 7th. The schedule will be, well, it has been released. It's available on our website. Okay, next. Okay, we have 4 free summer camps this year. There's History Week, Nature Week. I'm not going to go into like huge detail, so you don't fall asleep. Water Week and Food Week. So I'm in charge of Food Week. Paid camps, registration has already gone out. There's Art and Culture Week, Animal Week. Fun Week has been like super duper popular and is full and has wait list. So we'll keep that in mind for next year.
Must be fun.
Science Week, yeah, it is really fun. Like Liam like staffed it, so yeah. All right. Oh yeah, and just so you know, the free camps will be posted like we've done in the past years, where it goes up the Tuesday before, just to keep it fair. All right, movie nights. So this year we have 3 movie nights. July 3rd is Moana 2. August 14th is Despicable Me 2. And August 21st is Inside Out 2, all of which will be held at the amphitheater. And we hope that we will have rain. Check out the amphitheater today. It looks awesome. The Coffee Park's all set up, so I encourage you to go check that out. Next. Okay, community garden. $20 a bed. We have not had a ton of interest in participating in the community garden this year, but with some nicer, warmer weather coming, I'll get more of a chance to start focusing on a little bit more about the community garden. We're going to be purchasing some raised garden beds to make it more accessible for the elders, if you will, or even myself, like picking last year, I was like, eating by the end of the time. We need new wheelbarrows, so that'll be included in that. We're gonna fix up our garden beds, and I plan to order a help me out, what's it called? Greenhouse, yes. Yes, buy a greenhouse, it probably won't get used until next year, but will be part of our budget. Okay, that is done.
How many garden beds do you have?
There's 12. About half of them need repair. The soil is really good though, so we can reuse the soil from last year. And then I hope to add like 4 at least garden beds, like the raised ones. I'm still kind of learning where the sun is at, where things are best. And I'm working with the Carolyn from the school, and we're working on like a community rock garden project, so stay tuned for that. Upcoming workshop, so we're gonna do a Father's Day gift, I believe that's June the 7th. I'm partnering with Quality Creations. She is a local vendor at the farmer's market. She's gonna help us design some fun tumblers for Father's Day. Next, we have painting with Sarah Gaxiola. That'll be held on June 21st at the Legion, and I propose that we do like a lighthouse timer. So kind of summary vibes. Last, we have August 23rd, we're gonna do salad dressing and salsa using products from our community garden. Okay.
Go back to the first question on the slide. Can we win? Yes.
We're gonna win.
We're gonna.
Yeah, signs all over town. I fell into a ravine.
Kudos. I've already talked to people you can have to see. Good job.
We're gonna win.
I just want to shout out my team. Okay, so I'm not gonna go too long here. I'm probably already over the time that I promised Austin, so I apologize.
You told me 2 minutes.
So, my focus personally, it's not necessarily on my work plan, but with how much baseball has grown in the town and also soccer, having a new association. I spoke with both the club and the association, and I made some promises that I have luckily been able to keep, despite the timeline that I've had. So luckily this year with baseball, we've extended the infields of both fields by 3 meters each, which has allowed for U18 play. They've been really happy about that. They've already been out there. Sorry, there's a fly buzzing around my head. There have been some subsurface drainage improvements made by Lee as well when he was there doing the infield extensions, and also 2 new portable mounds that have been added to the fields already. And they have been very much appreciated by the association and by myself, because doing the mounds myself is a miserable job. So very happy about that. Also, at the end of August, we'll be hosting U13 provincials. The first time we've been able to really host provincials, because my staff has never really had a field laborer per se who's been able to be there and groom the fields on the weekend. So we're really excited about that. Corey has already said that that's been confirmed, so that's awesome. In terms of soccer, it's been fertilized, aerated, and limed. We worked with the school to get that done with the local landscaping company. Mowing service level has increased 2 times per week. Unfortunately, the mower is currently in repair, so it's a little more difficult this week, but next week we'll be back to twice per week.
It's too wet anyway.
Oh, yeah, that's brutal. Nets have also been moved, and we're probably going to move them every year now to decrease the use of the high use areas where the goalies stand typically and the penalty kicks are. You'll see that if you go there. For the last 4 years since they've repaired the field, it's now sand and not grass, so that's why we moved it. We've also, we haven't painted it yet, but between myself, our field laborer, and our co-op student, will be painting the U11 field to allow for competitive play in the U11 division, which is extremely exciting, because apparently, as we've seen with his presentation, Todd has said that U11 group has already grown by over 30 kids. So that's awesome. Public consultation at the park. Additional park space purchased last year. So we'll be doing public consultation at the Ward 3 block party, and likely online as well, I'm assuming, to discuss amenities and additions to that area that the residents, not only of that ward, but of Salisbury as a whole, would like to see there. Because like you mentioned time and time again, it's the heart of the town, and we really want to hear from outside people coming in who are using these new amenities and additions. Also, it'll be a chance to evaluate the pilot, which is the Fox in the Park as well. Pool, so renovations, there's been a new fence added, new pumps, and a new double drain system will be implemented in the fall. There's no safety issues as of right now. We have a really good drain cover that doesn't allow for entrapments right now, so it is perfectly safe. It has been perfectly safe, but just that extra step of having that double drain system is usually recommended, and we're excited to implement that in the fall. Pool opening will be June 26th. There are some discussions with Public Works that we're waiting for some of the equipment for the pumps, I believe it is, that might delay the opening. But for lessons, no matter what, we'll be open, we'll be running, we'll be good to go. BGC water safety lessons will be on the 26th. They'll unfortunately have to not happen if there is a delay in pool opening. But as of right now, Trevor says that June 26th is very realistic, which is great. Open swims, 3:30 to 6:30 PM on, again, June 26th. Swimming lessons, registration for daycares is ongoing. Registration for general public will be June 5th at 7 PM. And as I previously mentioned, the start swimming lessons will be on Wednesday, July 2nd. And this year, we're actually introducing Intro A and Intro B, which is kind of a 3 to 5 year old age range. We noticed that level ones were starting to fail a little bit more than previous years. And we realized that's because level one has been a little bit more difficult for the 3 to 5 year olds. And that's why we've implemented this, and with collaboration with our lifeguards, they think that this is a really good idea. So we'll see how it goes. We'll continue to open swim, 18 hours of open swim per week. Likely in the schedule right now, we're actually up to 21 hours, which is the most we've had since it's been run by the town. 3 hours every single day. And as of the time that I posted this, Thursdays is now available. So that no longer is true. Aquafit, we have a new instructor. We're still working the kinks out with that. Celine Gauthier, she'll be teaching. Brooke, unfortunately, has been taking on a lot of stuff and she wanted to take the summer off. So we had to look elsewhere for an Aquafit instructor. This was Austin's recommendation and I'm very excited about it. Dog pool party, date to be determined. It'll likely be the last day the pool is open. Bring your dog, bring the pool. The pumps are the only thing that we need to consider. I don't think it's a big issue at the CPO training. I had asked about this specifically, and they said, especially with our new system, they said if you have a good filtration system, it shouldn't be a big issue at all.
I wouldn't want another answer. That's the answer.
Yeah. That also brings me, I didn't actually mention this, we've always had to have caps required, both for hair oils, but also hair in general and the filtration system. That is something I'll be meeting with the CPO instructor to discuss whether we need hair caps, head caps, or not. As of right now, I'm thinking of not having them required. Whether that will change the level of alkalinity in the pool, which is usually the issue, not even the filtration, that's to be determined. But we have both Joe and myself and Marnie shortly to be CPO certified, who can really be able to be there and adjust the water levels accordingly. So if we're able to keep the alkalinity at the proper.
You are talking about caps for swimmers, not the dogs, right?
Yeah. No,
Okay,
not
check.
dogs.
I want a clarification, because I thought that would be kind of look weird, I don't know.
Just on their heads though.
I don't think you can keep a cap on Cooper, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be awesome. There's gonna be, everyone's gonna be bringing their cameras, might even go viral, who knows? All right, that is all from our department. Obviously, that's not all we have. I know you guys probably heard about the t-shirt contest that just happened. We've got some orders in. I think you guys are also putting some orders in, so thank you for that. Our team is always busy. We love what we do, and I know that this is not even probably half of what we actually have going on. But you guys always are really supportive of what we do, and we can't thank you enough for what you guys do for us as volunteers, but also as council. So thank you all so much, and I'm very appreciative of you all.
Question, thank you, first of all, but the play box, when does it get installed in park?
I've put 8 cans clear coat on that thing, and
All right,
it's a very expensive process to clear coat it.
Okay.
I am working, I've dedicated about 20 minutes a day to clear coating it. It is a more complicated job than I had expected.
Fair enough, you know, let us I feel bad for even asking them.
So I'm talking to Mike, I might just order some epoxy off of him and just dump it in there or something, because I'm spray painting it and
You know, you gotta do it.
fingers. Bicep on that. All right. That's all.
Thank you for all you.
Great job.
For us, the lights at the ball field, are we able to qualify through like the Save NB program through?
No, that doesn't apply, but That is a frequent moving target on our council agenda for future discussion. There's a few factors that we have to firm up before we can bring that, but there's other options for funding for it.
Just seems like there's something.
Yeah. Oh, there's always
Retrofitting.
there's always something.
It is the number one thing that the association brings up to me, and I always say that it is high priority, but then they hear about how much they actually cost, and they're like, oh, okay, we get it.
Yeah.
We get it.
There's nothing cost and no fun.
Yeah, we'll chase the funding for sure, yeah, it's just, we can't invest that type of money until there's a few other things locked in, so, it's part of the, we keep intentionally,
I might have asked the question already, I just can't remember the.
Yeah, I don't think
There's a
so.
couple other hurdles that have to
I
happen
think this is
first.
a great answer, that's fine.
But yeah, like, we move it month by month until we can confirm that we can have conversations.
Yes.
When you are there, well, I assume, only getting out that we're partners, but not like it's just.
So Marnie has done some magic behind the scenes. I think when we first went out to businesses in the area, last year compared to this year, I think mid-May, we were at double the amount of businesses and groups that were signed up. Do you have any idea of the number that we have right now?
They were at 36 organizations, and Cindy and I will be going out all week and getting, like, helping anybody get set up and answering any questions that they may have. And then because of what I learned from last year, I'm gonna simplify things a little bit, like for people's activities, so that they can kind of take off, like if they want pickleball and they're like, oh, hey, yeah, I did 2 days of, just be, so they'll just be able to pick it off, and then I have like little seeds that are going to track for me.
Joe?
There's programs that are run by.
By private group, yes, exactly, yeah. And because they're signing up with their own postal code, which is within their town, it all goes to the town's effort. So even if they don't tell us, it still goes towards their effort. Which, they are, a lot of them are still the same.
Yeah, and a lot of them we can kind of double up on.
Yeah.
Like we watched the.
And I'm gonna do the same thing as last year. I'm in my office, I'm gonna look at the basketball court, like, oh, can we get 10 kids playing out there playing basketball? Like, the town and out the bed.
Well, every practice, I really like being and all that stuff with the organization, right? And that's just.
But what's changed last year, it was more difficult to
Yes.
navigate through, like, that's what we found as an
Yeah.
organization.
To this day, I wasn't here unfortunately for the meeting, the big national meeting that they had. But I'd probably say everybody that was there the year that I did attend, so a year ago, they aren't, even now, are not a fan of the way it's run now because you're taking the individual out of it.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's great that associations, groups,
Yeah,
businesses are having these events and bringing people to it. But what really matters is that that Jane Doe is gardening at home, and that's not being recorded. Maybe that motivation to do that is no longer there, which is the majority of physical activity. It is planned, right? It is exercise. So, if I were working for that organization, I would bring it back to the individual and prioritizing that. So unfortunately, that's not the way they're doing it. But no matter what it seems, we kick butt. So let's keep it going. Pardon me, everybody. Recording.
All right, kick butt is allowed. Okay, with that, we're going to move on to item 4.6.
4.6.
Okay.
Declare.
Regional Service Commission verbal update.
So as a standing item on the committee of the whole agenda each month, we've started to place Regional Service Commission update at the request of the board. So other committees will start doing this as well. So the mayor will share any updates that the board may have from recent meetings. I don't know if boards met, I think they meet soon, last meeting, but at the recommendation of the mayor, we've also drafted a letter to be sent to the Service Commission with respect to the upcoming Service Commission budget. I will say from my end, the only real update that I have from the administrator side is that the proposal or intent of the letter is very much the intent of the Service Commission through the budget right now. So they're actively trying to maintain or decrease, at which point when they said decrease, everybody, all the CAO said, yeah, that's what we would like. But I think the intent is still the same.
Yeah, both at the board level, we've met, as well as the CAO level, the Service Commission's been clear that they understand the need to hold budgets tight this year, particularly with the freezes that are happening with assessments. But we still felt it was important as a smaller community within the broader range to send the message, because we're gonna be, potentially, we don't know what we're gonna be facing yet until we do. But there's other factors that can be coming into play, such as infrastructure cost sharing, that if another community was to all of a sudden deem that they were gonna bring forward a major project next year, we kind of want to be clear on the books that we don't have the wherewithal to support that. We just wanted to send that message across the board. I'm sure we'll get that support from all the communities, but as we start to enter that, I think it's just important. We're going to be in a belt tightening year across the board in all municipalities, so we can't ignore that's the reality. And that comes at the Service Commission level as well, just because they don't have the public scrutiny that we have. In fairness, they're good partners, but we have to be on record. That's why we recommend this letter.
And I didn't put a recommendation on it. But the recommendation, yes, sorry, is to send the letter as drafted.
Okay, so I will move to send the letter as written. Second.
Moved by Councillor Bannister, second by Councillor Colwell. Questions to the motion? I will know they know that it's coming. It's not a secret.
Well, how do you even budget? But you know, you've got big things coming out of nowhere and you're thinking of last year.
And the main challenge is that the Service Commission has to legally have their budget in by a certain time and send it to communities to review. And there's a process between basically August and September. And then ours comes quickly after. So their step is first before we'll even know what fiscal reform will look like. And so that's a challenge for them of trying to budget and get approval from a board when nobody knows what their own budget is going to look like. October, November, they need to be approved. So not a position that I would want to be in, and we're fortunate that our Service Commission follows those timelines because most of the province don't. So other municipalities will really be scrambling.
But we have a great relationship among our communities within. We just felt that with what's happening in the roller band, we bring this forward, particularly where we are about to enter into a realm where infrastructure cost sharing, there are projects that are being whispered about. And we kind of want to make sure that other municipalities, if they bring it forward, there may not be the wherewithal for us to support that.
This is just property tax freeze, the property tax assessment freeze.
Assessment.
It's not the tax rate.
No,
So it's not necessarily a belt tightening. It's just from a per.
not necessarily, but most municipalities are looking at it this year with the unknown that it could be belt tightening. If you have additional costs that come on from the Service Commission, if you had all of a sudden paid 2 cents into the Service Commission for downloaded services with the province, that's, you're gonna have to find it elsewhere.
Fair enough. But at the same time, if we do try to see more of this development take place, that will also drive revenue.
Oh, the more new growth,
Well,
the
not
more new
necessarily
growth.
development height or tax increases, but just to make sure that everything's balanced properly.
And the question is looming is what will fiscal reform look like?
Right.
And that's
So let's go through legislation.
yeah, there's legislation that's being passed for third reading, but the regulations is what is going to tell us the numbers. And so that's what.
It's not gonna be positive for us. I can tell
Probably
you,
not.
probably the government is not gonna give us more money to us to decide how.
Yeah, if people talking about fiscal reform, they're assuming we're gonna get more money. I'm not.
That's right.
We're gonna get a nickel more.
Well, regardless, it's the message that we were getting into at certain times until we're gonna have to take each decision as we move along, and it's not like the way it was before.
Economic development is the only way to deal with a lot of this. Yeah, specifically in the town of Salisbury.
And clearly we can do it within federal provincial.
Right.
The housing, the steps we've made in housing without their assistance.
It's to make the investments in the right areas and to ensure that development can take place in the most streamlined and efficient manner. And if Plan 360 needs to be streamlined to help accommodate certain, then I think that is where some of it's going to be taking place. It's to try to reduce and remove red tape wherever it is possible.
They hear from me regularly on that.
Yeah, that's bang on. That's where we're up against, because it's gonna be net new bills, that's gonna be our roads. We don't know if it's 1 year freeze or whatever it's
More
gonna
people,
be.
more business, more taxes. It's one of the three.
It's a combination of all.
Ideally.
Yes.
So, okay, so with that, do we have, all in favor? Aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried with that, moving on to item for Pretty very close to being done.
Is it, yeah, I think
We're probably 2 minutes.
yeah. Making sure everyone stays awake.
Yeah.
Making sure everyone stays-
Sherry will keep you.
So noted that, Councilor Thorne is back in the room. With that, we'll move on to item number 5. There is no closed session. Moving on to item number 6, Mayor and Councilor, comments. Have anything? Does anyone else?
Graduation is my episode, grad is on Sunday. That's pretty exciting.
Yes.
Children, children are movie, young adults.
Excellent. All right, I guess we have a hockey game tonight with the Memorial Cup with our Preston Lounsbury playing, so it's, sorry now, so I think, that's coming with speed as along. Go Wildcats, and with that, does anybody, councilors have anything to comment on? Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn? Yeah, I was lightning round over on my right. I think it was Deputy Mayor Oblinus, followed by Councilor Cole. All in favor? Aye.